Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is J.R. Moore coming to you live from deep in the mountains of the Missouri Ozarks on Thursday, the 18th day of January, year of our Lord 2018. Welcome to the John Moore Show. Tim Spencer has a day off today. I just talked to him this morning, and he's resting comfortably. Bottom of the hour, we'll have Tom Berryhill with us, and second hour, we will have open lines. The proper tip of the day, we're going to expand on this a little bit. It's a twofer. We're concentrating on one of them. First of all, I've mentioned this before, and that's Grainger. That's Grainger.com. They're the largest industrial supply house in the country. I have one of their catalogs here. They have a paper catalog and online catalog both. This one, it's 8.5 by 11. Softbound, 4,482 pages. 4,482 pages. A lot of stuff, to say the least. But the main prepper tip is a new one. I haven't mentioned this one before. I first became aware of this company, about 30 years ago. I was doing research and came across them. At the time, they were the Thomas Register, publishing a hardbound volumes of what they do. Now it's thomasnet.com. thomasnet.com. There's a link on my links page. You can click on there and go straight to their homepage. 30 years ago, when I first started using their service, they were publishing hardbound books, large format, 11 by 14 inches. They took up about 6 feet of shelf space. Imagine that, 6 feet of shelf space, large format. Now it's all online. You don't have to go to the library or buy the volumes, which would be incredibly expensive if they were still selling and manufacturing the hardbound volumes. This is a research and a reference tool, is what thomasnet.com is. They have more than 500,000 suppliers of most anything you can imagine. We'll get into that in a moment. And those suppliers offer more than 6 million products. In addition, right there online, you have access to 10 million CAD drawings. What a resource. I haven't looked at them for a while. I was just looking at them since yesterday because I knew I'd be talking about them today. You can find anything from the smallest nuts, bolts, and screws that you would find at your local hardware store up to full-size naval warships. Full-size naval warships. It's an amazing place. Their homepage this morning, there was an article about a company that's using 3D printers to manufacture full-size luxury yachts. How about that? I was looking at the section on drones this morning, and there's a company selling drones that have up to a 65-pound cargo capacity. And there may be ones offering a bigger cargo capacity. I ran out of time, so I couldn't really get into it any deeper. But that's phenomenal. That's a good-sized aircraft that has a 65-pound cargo capacity. That's almost big enough for a man to ride around in. Not quite, but close. So it's a resource, and it's one of those places where you may wonder if something exists. And Grainger's the same way to a certain extent, in my opinion. And go find out if the object, the piece of equipment that you're thinking about does in fact exist. We're taking questions, calls, and comments this first half hour at 800-313-9443. I'm trained in the classic modality of being a researcher. First, becoming an intelligence analyst, going to military intelligence school in Baltimore, Maryland, at Fort Halliburton, and then follow-up training, which was just as intense, if not more so, as a paralegal. I spent a lot of time in a lot of libraries doing serious research in the classical sense, both traditional libraries and law libraries both. I'm very, very good at doing real research, as opposed to point and click on the internet, which I do that, of course, now also, but I know where to look. I know how to look. I know how to find what I need very quickly. And that's one of the differences between a trained researcher and somebody who is not trained, to be polite. So getting back to thomasnet.com, let's see, here's our top, there's a bar across the top of their home page, product catalogs. And so you can put in whatever product, whatever you want to look for, and let's just put, let's say drone, D-R-O-N-E, drone, and we've got catalog comes up right away, and there's a company called Unmanned System Source. They have an online catalog. And there's another company called Wix Aircraft Supply right next to that. And let's see, supplier discovery. So you can put the company name or the brand name, and they will come up with the outfit that you're looking for real quick. Under product catalogs, there's a whole section for product groups, and they have it grouped in bunches here now. Here's, for example, construction equipment and supplies. So you click on that, and then they have an alphabetical order of all the different things that might be used in the construction industry. Just basically everything you would need to build any kind of construction project that you would need to build. Everything from, being at A, aligners, all the way to W for wallboard. How about that? A lot of different things here. Some things I've never heard of. I've been around the construction industry, grew up in the construction industry, but there's been lots of new things that I certainly don't know about, and I'm certainly not aware of. Regardless, thomasnet.com is a place to find out who's manufacturing what, who the people are, what their catalog is. You can get quotes from them, and all this doesn't cost a penny. Does not cost a penny. There's even newsletters you can sign up for, online newsletters, to keep current on whatever related topic you want to keep current on. Great resource. Now, I've mentioned Grainger before. Grainger has warehouses all over the United States. Typical delivery time is 1 or 2 days. Lots of industrial equipment there. Electrical motors, they're real heavy on anything that uses electricity. Motors, lights, light fixtures, and so forth. But you can find pretty routine stuff in there, like pool tables, for example. Who would expect a pool table to be in there? Now, keep in mind with Grainger, you're paying full retail. I mean, really full retail on one hand. On the other, if you need something and you need it right now, Grainger will have it, that big, beautiful brown UPS truck drop it off probably no more than 2 to 3 days at the very most, right there wherever you need it. Once you find out that the product exists, of course, and that's one of the purposes of using Grainger or ThomasNet, then you can start looking for less expensive sources. We got a caller on hold here. We got Jeff in Massachusetts. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning, John. Well, John, I'll tell you one of the scariest things that happened recently, and that is a whole bunch of psychiatrists who never met Donald Trump declared him to be mentally unfit for office. This is absolutely scary.
Well, it's not scary to me. It's not scary to me. That's grandstanding. The people that license psychiatrists, they admonish these men and women. I assume they're women too. They were admonished by their own licensing association, professional association, for doing this. So it's grandstanding. It's grandstanding is what it is, and it may have a certain amount of credibility with people who don't know any better, but normal, aware adults who have a normal intelligence level would not be affected by this one way or the other there, Jeff.
Oh, no, and I'm not affected by it because Donald Trump's personal position shot down all the questions that the media had for Donald Trump. I mean, this doctor is a very credible doctor, and he literally swatted away all the garbage that these psychiatrists and these lefties try to put on Donald Trump. But the reason why I said scary is because in the Soviet Union, what they did to dissidents was they put them in the pushka, which is the insane asylum, because the communists consider dissident a form of insanity. And you see, if these leftists ever get back into power again, and if they have their way, anybody that dissents against them, having a dissenting opinion or a dissenting thought, goodbye, off to the nut house, time for the drugs and torture to make you a good communist soldier. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, I agree with you, but that brings up another whole thing to discuss, and that is the communist influence on our society and what goes on here. I'm just looking at my links page. I think I've got a link to J.R. Nyquist on my website here.
Man.
Yeah, I do. JRNyquist.com, and there is a link on my links page. I know Jeff Nyquist. I've interviewed him a number of times. It's been several years. But quite frankly, Jeff Nyquist should have an office somewhere in the White House, in my opinion, or nearby. Do you know who I'm talking about, right, Jeff?
Oh yes, I miss him. I haven't heard him on radio for ages. So he is great. But go on.
Well, I need to catch up with Jeff. When I had the previous time slot, he's out in California. It was way too early to have him come on the radio because it would have been just too early. But now with this new time slot, I need to catch up with him and see if he would come on with me. I'm looking at his website right now, and it'll help people understand what's really behind much of what we see happening in our politics here in this country, the communist influence that's taking place behind the scenes. And when you read his articles, and he's a brilliant gentleman, by the way,
yes.
He connects the dots that seemingly are unconnected, and it's very helpful to have somebody that can do that. So I'm glad you called, Jeff, because I'm going to try to catch up with Mr. Nyquist. We can get him on soon. Yeah, we need to do that.
Because the concept of the pushka is really, really scary because they would put intellectuals in there, they would put pastors in there, priests. It didn't matter. Hillary would do that. If Hillary was our president, Hillary would try to push for something like that, which is all dissenting opinion. Goodbye, time for the nut house. You're out of the job. And then when you get tortured and broken down, then you kick down into the street and you freeze and starve to death. And these communists I think they're more ruthless than the Nazis myself, and it's more appealing because the concept of communism is to take the wealth away from the rich people and give it to the poor people. And that's why communists, I think, is much more dangerous than any ideology in the world, including Islamism and Nazism.
Yes. Jeff, what you're saying is correct in terms of what communists hold out publicly. What they actually do, they take the wealth from the rich and they give it to themselves while all the people remain poor.
Of course, but that's the bait. You see, the communists use that as the bait, and because you're right. And when you see outwardly communist countries, like one of the most communist countries in the world is Zimbabwe, that country is literally, and this is what they criticize Donald Trump for talking about how all these countries like Haiti are you-know-what holes. Well, guess what? Haiti is a communist country. I mean, even Haitians don't want to go back to Haiti. It's so bad. But that's because of socialism and so forth. But you see, I'm going to close with this. This country is literally in a war against the leftist professors, the leftists in the media, the deep state, which is nothing but a bunch of Obama leftists. So it's a civil war going on in this country, but it's not a hard civil war. John, thank you for having me on, and have a good one.
Jeff, thank you. I'm going to recommend one of the articles here at Jeff's J.R. Nyquist's website. It's dated the 20th day of February 2017, so it's about 11 months old. Here's the title of it: Golitsyn's Methodology and the Trump Administration. Golitsyn's Methodology and the Trump Administration. Now, I believe all the articles there have value. Some you'll find some more interesting than others. That's a matter of personal preference. But Golitsyn, of course, is the man who wrote two books. The one that is my favorite, his first book, New Lies for Old. And let's see, I got about less than 2 minutes here. New Lies for Old, Anatoly Golitsyn. And if I can't finish this before the break, we'll finish it after the break. The book talks about the fall of the Berlin Wall. The book talks about the East European communist countries collapsing and becoming democracies. The book talks about the Soviet Union collapsing and becoming a democracy. You may say, well, John, all those things happened. Some guy named Anatoly Golitsyn wrote a book about it. That's a big so what. Well, here's the big so what. The book was published in 1984, 5 years before all those things happened. Anatoly Golitsyn was a member of the KGB. His job before he defected in the early 1960s was long-range planning. He would sneak out documents, which would have meant long-term prison if he'd got caught, and eventually escaped, defected to the West, and the rest is history, as they say. New Lies for Old, Anatoly Golitsyn. Here's our break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at thelibertyman.com. Thank you. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the 18th of January. Golitsyn's book is foundational, in my opinion. It's very foundational in understanding what's going on in terms of geopolitics on this planet. It really is. It really is. It's that important. Anatoly Golitsyn KGB employee working in long-range planning in Moscow before he defected. Now, when he first got to the West, he was debriefed by MI5 in England, the CIA, this country. They basically were very polite and told him that he needed a tinfoil hat. Oh, come on, Anatoly. The Berlin Wall's going to collapse. All the East European communist countries are going to collapse and become democracies. The Soviet Union is going to collapse and become a democracy. Give us a break, Anatoly. Yeah, we'll take care of you. We'll make sure that the KGB doesn't find you and assassinate you, but, you're full of it. It's just a fantasy. Well, that was in the early 1960s, 1963, 1964, along in there. And thank goodness he published his first book 5 years before all those things happened. Was he making a prediction? No. If I'm going to be at the supermarket at noon today, and I call my wife, Dr. Moore, I says, honey, I'm going to be at the supermarket at noon today. Am I making a prediction? No. I'm telling her what's going to happen. I'm going to be at the supermarket at noon today. Was Anatoly Golitsyn making a prediction? No. He was telling us what was going to happen because he was part of planning it. The goal. Now, this is a pretty big deal. The goal of all those things happening, those East European countries becoming democracies, the collapse of the Soviet Union, which was orchestrated and planned decades in advance. The goal was to get the West to disarm. Our military, the U.S. military, now has about as many men and women as it did in December 1941, maybe slightly less. That's a very small military that's being all used up, by the way, in these never-ending wars. National Guard the same way. In fact, many governors have gone to a home guard so they would have something that could respond to earthquakes and floods, tornadoes, and so forth that wasn't beat up and used up, which is what's happened to many of our National Guard units because of constant deployments, using up and leaving behind equipment, men and women who have had it and are getting out because they can't take it anymore. J.R. Nyquist is a brilliant gentleman. He was an intelligence analyst like myself, by the way. And he's written a couple of books. I recommend his books. I believe one of them is titled The Origins of the Fourth World War. Well done book. So now that I've got this time slot from 8 to 10 a.m. Central Time, which would be 6 to 8 a.m. Pacific Time, I'm going to see if I can get Jeff on, maybe for a second hour on one of these mornings, possibly on a Wednesday morning or a Thursday morning. We'll see. I don't know what his schedule is these days. If he can get away and give us an hour, I think it would be a valuable hour for everybody. I really do. Nice website, well laid out. jrnyquist.com. J.R. Nyquist, that's, I'll do the phonetic spelling here. Juno, Romeo, November, Yankee, Quebec, Uniform, India, Sierra, Tango. jrnyquist.com. Let's see if he just has the one book here still. Origins of the Fourth World War. Yeah, and his brother has a book here, Ayn Rand Contra Human Nature, and then Visions of Reality. Let's see who wrote that thing. I can't really see who wrote that. Well, regardless, it is a good book. That's another book by his brother Greg. New Ways of Conceiving Old Problems. I really don't know his brother Greg. I've read some of his work, and he does some good work too. We got the bottom of the hour break coming up here. And we'll be talking to Tom Berryhill for about 24 minutes about a marvelous healing device called the Energy Cleaner. J.R. Nyquist, great guy. Here's our break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We're continuing our Energy Cleaner promotion, which began August of 2016. In this promotion, you get to buy an Energy Cleaner, $70 off retail, and a mattress pad, 10% off retail. $200 of the purchase price of the Energy Cleaner goes to Republic Broadcasting. This is a great way to help get energy cleaners out to people who need them and have some financial issues to deal with. And, of course, a great way to support Republic Broadcasting. Here's what you do. Send in a postcard. My address is John Moore, P.O. Box 201, Davidsville, Missouri. We pick a postcard every 2 weeks. If your postcard is drawn, you get the chance to buy the Energy Cleaner, $70 off retail, and 10% off the mattress pads. Put your name and your address, your telephone number, and your email address on the postcard, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the 18th of January. Most every Thursday, the second half hour here, we discuss the Energy Cleaner. And we start these conversations with my friend Tom Berryhill, the manufacturer of the Energy Cleaner, giving us our disclaimer. Good morning, Tom.
Hi, John. Good morning. We are not doctors or medical professionals. We don't diagnose, treat, or cure any illness or disease. The information discussed today is for your education and entertainment only. If you have a medical condition requiring treatment, you should utilize the services of a medical doctor, chiropractor, or other competent practitioner.
Absolutely, and I want to emphasize that. I was just recently in touch with a gentleman who had a medical emergency, and he did not want to go to the emergency room. I'm not going to be very specific here. I need to protect his identity, but he wanted to get an energy cleaner to take care of this medical emergency. And I said, "Sir, you need to be in an emergency room." He says, "No, I want to use the energy cleaner." Well, I'm going to short-circuit this. We did eventually, his daughter and I negotiated to get him to the emergency room, and I haven't talked to the daughter since he went, but I'm praying and hoping for an optimal outcome here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the energy cleaner can't do all things all the time. It can't. It's a marvelous healing device on one hand, but on the other, if you have a medical emergency, the best place on the planet to be is a modern American emergency room. Now, I don't care for allopathic medicine. I disagree with their basic premise of diagnosing symptoms and prescribing pharmaceutical products to make them symptoms cover up and appear to go away, which they really don't. But that's different than the emergency room. So if you have a medical emergency, you get yourself to an emergency room and get that taken care of. Now, the energy cleaner will help in the healing process after you've been to the emergency room. But by all means, if there's a medical emergency, you get yourself to the emergency room and get that thing taken care of. You know, follow-up care, well, that's up to you. Personally, I would stay away from the medical doctors, if at all possible, and seek out the help of an alternative healthcare professional, such as Dr. Myers, for example, who is a brilliant young man and can help take care of most medical conditions. So here we are. It's Thursday, the 18th of January, Tom. This is my 8th year of working with you to sell energy cleaners. I have a alphabetized wallet, I think they're called, to keep all my hard copy of all my orders in. I do one for each year. I just started the new one 18 days ago. And they fill up incrementally as the year passes on, A through Z. And it's very satisfying as we get to the end of the first quarter and the second quarter to see this brown paper wallet with the orders filling up in there for energy cleaners and mattress pads literally being shipped all over the planet to United States, Canada, Mexico, England, Australia. A lot go to Australia, by the way. Every place but the Antarctic. It's very satisfying, isn't it, Tom?
Oh, John, it sure is. We could have energy cleaner units in Antarctica. We just don't know. But I do know for a fact that they're on cruise ships. There's several units that are used on cruise ships, and maybe other vessels. It's hard to say. I did have one gentleman tell me once that he was able to use it with a small pad on an airplane, but he had to get it cleared first. I don't recommend taking these units on an airplane. If they go through TSA and they X-ray it, they're going to see a thing with a blinking light and 9 batteries stacked up. And in fact, the rows of batteries might look like something else that would really cause a lot of concern. So just a quick note on that. If you are traveling, for instance, you're going out of state by airplane, and if you're going to be there for a while, it might be a good idea to ship the energy cleaner without the batteries in advance to your hotel and just have them hold the shipment for you there in the lobby, and then you can pick it up when you arrive. That's the safest way to get that energy cleaner to an outlying area.
Right. Well, I went to Europe in July. I didn't take an energy cleaner with me. I considered it, but it's just one more thing to deal with, and it would have been in my checked baggage. One of the things that amazed me, Tom, now I use an aluminum Halliburton suitcase when I travel, and the one I've got several of these, but the one I took had a key lock on it, and it went through customs through 2 countries, both Canada and actually 3. Canada going out, Prague, Czech Republic going out, and then Canada coming back, and the United States coming back. And that aluminum suitcase was never unlocked for customs even once.
Well, they just X-ray it, I suppose, but I'm sure they wanted to know what was in there. They wanted to see the inside. That's a fact.
They didn't care what was inside that. Apparently, they went through their whatever the protocols they use, I guess an X-ray machine, and that was that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're a new listener, and you hear Tom and John talking about the energy cleaner, you're thinking, what in the world are these guys talking about? Well, there's a link on my website at thelibertyman.com where you can read up on the patent application. Fascinating material, by the way. Wonderful testimonials. The energy cleaner is a healing device. About the size of a cigar box, takes 9 D as in Delta, 9 D-cell batteries. And it's not a Rife machine. It's not a TENS unit. People want to try to figure out what this thing is. It's entirely different technology. It puts out what's called an electrostatic signal. The closest thing that we can relate it to would be a radio transmitter, a signal. That signal is transmitted through a wire to either a pad that goes on your bed, or a pad that you sit on, or possibly, if you're using the bathtub method, a metal spoon because it has no sharp edges, or a hot tub method, the same thing, a metal spoon. And that signal goes to every cell in your body, flushing out toxins, bringing in fresh nutrition, acting as a jump starter to jumpstart these cells that are being compromised because of toxic buildup in these cells. We focus on 2 things primarily. Pain mitigation. It could be joint pain, arthritis pain, back pain, and getting a great night's sleep. Those are 2 things we focus on the most. And Tom, I'm not aware of anybody with arthritis who didn't get at least some relief. Are you?
No. There's been several cases, John, where the arthritis condition was so bad that they didn't get 100% relief, but it helped quite a bit. And then any pain medication that they were taking, that person reported they were able to cut back some on the pain medication. And then sometimes with long-term use of the energy cleaner, they eventually totally got off the pain medication. And a good example of that would be Tim Spencer, because Tim did report similar findings that he wasn't totally off the pain meds, but then eventually was. And maybe he alternates back and forth. Sometimes he does need pain medication. Tim could elaborate on that sometime, but I'm sure others have heard him talk about that.
Right.
Then, of course, we had an extreme condition, and I mention it often. The gentleman, I believe he was in Wisconsin, and it was a caller to your show. It was for a man's father-in-law. You remember that? He had pain so bad that morphine wouldn't even help, and he got the energy cleaner and helped his father-in-law set this up, and he was able to get back to leading a normal life. The pain issues were gone, and it was successful. So that's a case where morphine would not help. I had another customer in Texas where he had pain so bad, and this was from, I guess we shouldn't talk about that, but I'll just kind of skirt around the edges. This gentleman had cancer of the esophagus, and he was sent to hospice, and there was nothing they could do for him, and he was told to just get prepared for the end, but a chiropractor was helping him with the pain issues, wanted to get this gentleman an energy cleaner just so he could get some good rest. The man hadn't had any decent sleep in 4 months, they told me, and the first night he used the energy cleaner, he had a total night's rest, good rest, slept peacefully through the night, and woke up feeling much better in the morning. And then, of course, he had no more pain, so it helped quite a bit with that, only to find out 2 or 3 weeks later, well, he was totally healed of everything, and I'll just leave it at that. So there's a lot of uses for the energy cleaner. We can kind of make some hints here and there about other issues, and people have to read between the lines and figure it out for themselves. But when you can cause the cells in your body to expel the toxins and pull in fresh nutrients and revitalize themselves at the cellular level, when you can allow that to happen and help your body do that, it will heal itself. Your body will heal itself.
That's right.
Things will fall into line, and you'll regain your health. And but of course now, John, with mechanical problems like calcium deposits, with arthritis and issues like that, this energy cleaner is not always going to help in those situations, because there might be some surgical procedures that are needed to help with those issues. But then in that case, the energy cleaner really helps quite a bit with healing up those surgical incisions. The incision area will many times, not always, but many times, totally heal without any scarring. There's not even a hint of a scar. It's just amazing. And I've heard that from numerous people over the years. And then in the case of broken bones, many times they'll heal in a week or two. When you're told by the orthopedic surgeon that you can't put any weight on that broken limb, leg, or arm, you have to be so careful with it for 8 to 10 weeks before you can do any lifting or walking or anything. In many cases, those people are lifting and back to a normal life in 2 weeks. Seen it many times.
That's right. Well, I've seen it also now that I've been working with this so long. And in the past year time, I've noticed a dramatic increase in people buying a second, third, fourth, even the fifth unit or even more. And that seems to be picking up steam, where people are helping siblings, children, parents, cousins, and so forth, helping them to get relief. And it's easy to tell when the orders come in when the person buying the unit is different than the unit's being shipped to. So I see this a lot, and usually people don't tell me what they're doing. They just go ahead and place the order for an energy cleaner and a full-size pad or a queen-size pad, and I box them up. I ship them out. We've had such a dramatic increase in people getting mattress pads along with an energy cleaner. I had to get a supply of larger boxes, Tom, to meet this demand and be able to get these things boxed up properly. I'm sitting here looking at the supply of boxes, and I make sure that when the supply starts to get near the end, that I reorder in time so I don't run out of these boxes, both Postal Service boxes and commercially made boxes as well. And I buy this heavy packing tape in the economy pack because I go through it so quickly. Making sure everything's in stock and ready to go. I got all my mattress pads are in stock and fully stocked up, ready to go for people's orders to go out the next day. And it's a fun home business to get these orders out. Every time I put one of these boxes with an energy cleaner and a mattress pad on the counter at the little Cherryville post office, I think to myself, here's one for the good guys. Here's another healthy American that's going to be in the fight, whatever the fight may be. It's very gratifying, Tom. Don't you find the same thing for yourself?
Same exact thing, John. And, we've done this long enough to where, when we first started, medical doctors, they didn't want to, just leave us alone. We don't want to hear about it. They could care less. It's gotten to the point to where many of these medical professionals are now taking notice of this. They want to know more about it. Tell me a little bit about it, and maybe we'll try one out and things like this. All the way to in several cases where a doctor actually wrote a prescription for an energy cleaner for a patient so that their insurance company would pick up the tab. That's happened several times. And, John, I even have one case of an oncologist who wants to get involved with this, but he is petrified about losing his retirement, his pension, and he's got to wait till
that's the hammer they hold over these people is paychecks and pensions. Tom, we got a caller on hold here. We got Tony in North Dakota. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, John. Good morning, Tom. You wanted an update on our use of twin pads in our vehicle.
Yes, sir.
And we won't ever be without them.
Okay.
That's a positive report on that. We will always have those. My question I have today is, we have an energy cleaner here, and my daughter would like to have her bed hooked up. Is it possible if I ran a wire, insulated wire from one energy cleaner going, let's say, 20, 25 feet to another bedroom, would that energy cleaner function correctly with two mattress pads?
Oh, absolutely. And we've done that several times, Tony. I don't really know what the restrictions are on the length of that wire. Now, 25 feet, we've done that, and I believe it does work just fine. And it certainly wouldn't hurt to try. You could maybe tape the wire along the baseboard in the room and get it to the next room or to the other bed on a temporary basis, see how it works out. And then if you want a permanent installation, what I've done in several cases is to actually drill a small hole right at the baseboard and maybe the flooring, the carpet, just pull that back and drill a hole where the wire was able to be threaded down through there into the basement and then run across the basement ceiling and then into the adjacent bedroom. That was a very easy way to get the wire to the next bed in another bedroom without having wire laying all over the place. And it worked perfect. So, and in that case, it was about 20 or 25 feet away. So I think what you want to do will be fine.
Well, we do have an access hole already. We've drilled for an Ethernet cable, and it was a little bit big, so we could probably thread it through there. So anyway, I just thought that would I would ask that question before we did that. So we're probably going to end up ordering at this time just a mattress pad, John. Anyway,
that will do
you guys have a great day. Here's a commercial.
Thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
Yep, bye.
Here's our break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. ladies and gentlemen, we're back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the 18th of January. Well, the energy cleaners for sale at my website. Only $285, shipping included to American zip codes. I do take PayPal, the most secure way to make any payment online, MasterCard, Visa. If you need to send a check, my address is right there at my website at thelibertyman.com. And keep in mind, as of 18 days ago, we're offering a 90-day money-back guarantee. You're risking nothing when you buy an energy cleaner. I have a toll-free line 24 hours a day where you can order your energy cleaner and your mattress pads. We have the handy travel size that Tony was just talking about that you can use on your motor vehicle seat or the seat of your recliner while you read a book or watch a movie. And, of course, the twin size, full size, queen size, king size, and California king size, all there at my website at thelibertyman.com. Or you can call my toll-free line 24 hours a day. Here it is, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. We talk occasionally, and people know that I'm going to be talking about energy cleaner procrastinators, don't they, Tom?
Oh, yeah. It's got to be mentioned. And, John, when you give that 90-day money-back guarantee, that's more than enough time to really try this out and see how it's going to work for you. It's just a perfect way to really try this out. And I don't think anybody is not going to receive some benefits. They just give it enough time. I think they'll.
Right.
Some get relief, pain relief, almost instantly, while others it takes a little bit of time. But that's great.
Typically, I see anywhere from a few minutes to maybe 3 days. It's a rare person. There is the occasional person, especially the healthier people like myself. If you're already fairly healthy and don't have any major issues, it may take you a while to recognize the benefits. Typically, it's going to be you're feeling more energy. And little subtle things like, I have to get my hair cut more often. I need to trim my fingernails more often. And faster growing fingernails and faster growing hair is a sign of better health, isn't it, Tom?
Oh, it sure is. And many people have noticed that. Some of them are just totally amazed as to some of the things it does for them. So it's a great unit to give it a try, and I think everybody will realize some benefits if they, especially with this 90-day money-back guarantee. That's plenty of time to really see what it's going to do for you. So give it a try. We've had some amazing results from many people, and those longtime listeners have heard some of these calls come in over the years. But typically we don't hear from the people anymore, John. You know how that goes. They get their health back, they get pain relief, and they want to go back out to the golf course or go fishing or visiting with friends and family. They don't want to talk about what used to be. They want to talk about their new pain-free life. Yes.
Yeah. Walk around town, people say, "Where's your cane?"
Yeah. What'd you do? I want to do the same thing. And John, we hear from so many people that with that exact comment. I don't know exactly what that thing is, but it's a box with a handle. I want one, some kind of an energy thing. I want one just like what so-and-so has. So yes, we hear those calls all the time.
We do all the time, yes. Absolutely all the time.
Hey, John, I got to make one quick comment before we hang up. Your list of industrial suppliers, you missed one really good one, probably one of the best, McMaster Car in Chicago.
I know you like McMaster. No.
They're
McMaster Car. Is that car with a C or car with a K?
MC, and then McMaster Car, CARR. They're online. They ship from Illinois to Missouri here. Just regular ground shipping, you get it the next day with no extra charges.
They have an excellent catalog also, and it's good to compare the two, Grainger and McMaster Car. They're both good outfits. Yeah, absolutely.
They really are. And Grainger's great for motors and things because they stock so much in the electrical department. Yes.
They do, absolutely. Tom, we're about to be cut off by the music. We'll be talking privately soon. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, John.
Okay. At the top of the hour break coming in, we'll go back to open lines. Stay tuned. Thursday, the 18th day of January. Preparative of the day, and thank you, Tom. We were expanding this a little bit. Some resources that will help you find things you may not know even exist, all kinds of tools, supplies, equipment. First, there's Grainger.com. I'm not sure I got a link on my website or not. On the links page, Grainger. That's Grainger. Golf, Romeo, Alpha, India, November, Golf, Echo, Romeo, Grainger.com. I've got one of their older catalogs here in front of me. It's more than 4,000 pages. One that Tom mentioned out of Chicago, McMaster Car, is another good one. And then a research reference tool. They don't sell anything. It's a bulletin board, if you will, of people who do sell things. When I say people, more than 500,000 companies selling more than 6 million products. How do you get there? ThomasNet.com. There's a link in my links page. We just got that up yesterday. ThomasNet.com. It's phenomenal. More than 500,000 companies selling more than 6 million products. Breathtaking. Last hour also, and Jeff, I know you're listening. Thanks for the call again, Jeff. Jeff and I segued into talking about my friend J.R. Nyquist and Jeff's work. I was reading earlier this morning an article that Jeff wrote about a little over 4 months ago, 5 months ago, dated the 18th day of August, 2017. The title of it is The Strategic Significance of Russia Hacking the Election. The strategic significance of Russia hacking the election. It's sometimes said, and there is some truth to it, that when the Russians are playing chess, we're playing checkers. Russians, the men and women who run Russia, they're Caucasians, on one hand. On the other, this is very important, they think like Asians. They may be Caucasians, but they think like Asians. What does that mean? What does that mean, John? Okay, here's what that means. They plan decades in advance. Typical Western businesses and military and governments plan 5 years in advance, maybe 10. The Russians plan decades in advance. That's where Anatoly Golitsyn's work comes in. Golitsyn's work, his books, have stood the test of time. Now, 1984 sounds like 34 years ago to me, when his first book was published, New Lies for Old. And people use the word predicting. If you know something is going to happen, you're part of planning what's going to happen. I used an analogy last hour, but I'll use a different one. If I'm planning a birthday party for the 18th day of January, and I'm getting together all the gifts, the guest list, sending out the invitations, making sure that the food's going to be catered, that the decoration's going to be decorated, and so forth. Am I predicting there's going to be a birthday on the 18th day of January 2018? No, I'm not making a prediction at all. Golitsyn wasn't making predictions. Golitsyn was talking about what would happen, that he was part of planning. The collapse of the East European communist governments and then becoming democracies. The collapse of the Soviet Union becoming a democracy. China becoming a capitalist country. That was all part of the planning. Everything carefully orchestrated, carefully thought out, decades in advance, to make sure it happened in the proper way. And when the communists took over Russia in 1917, their goal 101 years ago was to conquer the world, economically, militarily, culturally, every way you can imagine. That was their goal 101 years ago. That has not changed. That has not changed. In fact, their plan, they change their strategy as they need to in order to accomplish their goal. But the overall plan, the overall goal, has never changed, ever. It remains the same, to conquer the world. And we talked briefly last hour about what they say publicly. And this is to win over the masses, to gain support by people who don't know any better. And we can see this in our country, like Nancy Pelosi talking about how we need to even out our income so everybody gets income to live the way they would like to live. To take from those who can give and give to those who need. That's what they say publicly. Privately, what really happens is they set themselves up in positions of power where they become incredibly wealthy. That's what really happens. A small elite, the members of the Politburo, the higher-ranking members of the Communist Party, they become incredibly wealthy, while the rest of the country is incredibly poor. That's the way communism works. What was the statement in Animal Farm? All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. Animal Farm, George Orwell. The article I just mentioned, there's a quote here from a Soviet military manual titled Soviet Military Strategy, page 458. Here's the quote. It's just one sentence. The political preparation of the morale of the people is of decisive importance in present-day conditions. Since the use of weapons of mass destruction in war imposes exceptionally high and unprecedented demands on the political morale of the population. What Nyquist believes, and I agree with him, is that what the communists want to do is to create a situation where the President of the United States feels he has no choice, if he's going to protect the United States, but to strike first against either North Korea or Iran, or both at the same time. That the circumstances have become so severe, they have become so dangerous and so immediate that he can't wait. And he has to take out the madman in North Korea with nuclear weapons. He has to take out the Ayatollah in Iran with nuclear weapons. Which, as far as world history is concerned, starting a war against a country at peace always makes you look like the bad guy, because you are the bad guy. If you attack a country at peace, you're the bad guy. That's what I learned in school. I don't know about you. That's how we learned that Nazi Germany was evil, because they attacked countries that were at peace. That's what we learned. That will be used by the Russians and the Chinese to do what they're bound to do. They're duty bound by treaties, by the way, to come to the aid of North Korea, their client state, and then do a strike back against the United States, possibly, let's say, sinking an aircraft carrier task force, which is 10 or 12 ships, including the aircraft carrier in the middle of it. And then just wait to see what happens. Would the president be forced to resign? Would he be impeached because he started a war and ended up losing 10 or 15,000 American sailors on ships at sea, possibly other damage to other American military installations? I don't know. The Russian plan is to take out our nuclear capability before it can be used against them. A surprise attack, if you will. A surprise attack by its very nature means you won't know it's coming, obviously, which means you need to be ready 24/7, 365. You can't consciously do that and have a normal life. You can't. It's not going to happen. No, you need to have preparations put in place so you can have a normal life, knowing that the preparations you made are ready and waiting to be used if necessary by the people that you've set them up to be used by. Your spouse, your children, your parents, whoever it might be, siblings, in-laws. If you can tolerate your in-laws, want to have them in a shelter with you. Whatever it might be. I recall as a boy, now we're talking about, around 1960 or so, my father and his brother, they were both World War II veterans. My dad was in the South Pacific. His brother was in Europe with the Third Army under Patton. And them talking about the shelters that they were going to have for their families if there was a nuclear strike. And my dad's brother was showing my dad the designated area of their home, which was a portion of the basement that he had designated as a family shelter with food and water and so forth. My dad never discussed that with the children, but I know he had a plan, and he would have done whatever he needed to protect his family. And that was just the way it was back in that period of time during the Cold War. Tens of thousands of families had made prudent preparations. There weren't many that had actual shelters. There were some, and I've talked to people that did have regular shelters on their premises, specifically built and designed to be fallout shelters. There was a lot of media attention to those, but not many. I would say maybe 1 or 2% of Americans had an actual fallout shelter back then. Some friends of mine, they would get into the fallout shelter equipment and take out the gas mask and play with them and things like that, and be admonished, and they had to put them back. And a lot of people in Hawaii are having those thoughts, I bet you, after what happened a few days ago. A storm sewer is certainly an act of desperation to put yourself and your children down inside a storm sewer to possibly survive a nuclear attack. That's an act of desperation. But you do it. You probably, I don't know if you've seen, I saw the videos of people lowering small children down to the storm sewer. That's an act of desperation. But you do what you got to do. Scary, scary stuff. But getting back to the premise is that North Korea and or Iran are being set up to provocate, to give the appearance that the President of the United States, Commander-in-Chief, has no choice but to preemptively strike against either North Korea or Iran or both. That's the plan. And it's a tough place to be, because the provocation will have every indication of being the real deal, of being a real clear and present danger to the United States, as well as our allies, South Korea, Japan, and so forth. It will not be a made-up threat. It will be a real threat. We have a caller on hold here. Let's see. It's Phil in Ohio. Good morning, Phil. Phil, you're on the air.
Yeah, am I on?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah. I wanted to comment about what you said about the Russians with their being Caucasian with an Asian mind.
Yes, sir.
I heard a preacher one time on a recording, Pastor Earl Jones, and he said exactly the same thing. He called it Western man with an Eastern mind.
Well, he figured it out, didn't he?
Yep. Just wanted to make that comment.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. Thank you for the call, Phil. Now, I was talking about the people who Thank you, sir. The people who run Russia. Now, Russia has a lot of Asians in what's called the stands, Kazakhstan and so forth, that were part of the old Soviet Union. But when it comes to the people who actually run Russia and always have run Russia, they're the Caucasians there. In fact, Caucasians come from the Caucasus Mountains, don't they? Yes. And I appreciate the call, Phil. The call number is 800-313-9443. Yeah, I look forward to catching up with Jeff Nyquist. I used to have him on fairly frequently when I had my weekend show, because the time slot worked out good for his schedule as well as the radio show. And it's been a while since I talked to Jeff, and it'll be good to catch up with him. Here's our break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at thelibertyman.com. Thank you. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the 18th of January. Looking at a headline here on Drudge Report in bright red letters: jobless claims lowest since 1973. That's 41 years ago. Oh, 40, excuse me. That's more than 41 years ago. That's 40, 43, 44 years ago. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Yes, jobless claims lowest since 1973. Well, the Democrats certainly have egg on their face. A lot of this is due, of course, to the new tax policy, which is going to bring a lot of jobs back to this country. The headline earlier was about how Apple is bringing money back to this country. Thank goodness for Donald Trump. Thank goodness for Donald Trump. 45 years ago. Yeah, 1973. Well, regardless, what's going on behind the scenes is communist manipulation of our country, communist infiltration of our government. If the Wicked Witch of the West had been elected president, we'd be in deep trouble, a lot more than we are right now. The communists change tactics as they need to. Their goal doesn't change. They change tactics. Now, we have a former president right down the street, was it less than 2 miles from the White House, in basically continuing the communist strategy to take over the United States by any means necessary. That's what Hussein Obama is doing, the communist Muslim who was in the White House. I saw something this morning that was kind of funny. It was somebody took a felt tip marker and marked on the back the image on the back of a $20 bill is the White House, and marked on the back of it, Donald Trump lives here. That would be very popular in my neighborhood, and I can think of some neighborhoods in St. Louis where they would be very distressed to see a $20 bill with that written on it. Some of the areas around some of these liberal universities in Metro St. Louis, Washington University and Webster University, and the neighborhoods that surround them. They would be very upset to see a felt tip marker on the back of a $20 bill that said, Donald Trump lives here. That's great. I love it. There's probably some federal law that says you can't do that, but it would be funny. The goals of the Communist Party, though, are not funny. They're not. It's a criminal conspiracy to conquer the world and eliminate Christianity, eliminate the free market, eliminate free thought, all the things guaranteed by our first 10 amendments of our U.S. Constitution, guaranteed and protected by the U.S. Constitution, would be gone. Freedom of press, freedom of religion, freedom of movement, freedom to conduct business, and so forth, which are incrementally happening anyway. Donald Trump has certainly slowed that down. You need to, first of all, educate yourself. That's why Anatoly Golitsyn's books are so important. The most important one being New Lies for Old. I don't recall the title of the other book offhand. I got it now. It's Perestroika Deception. Perestroika Deception. Another excellent book. Ralph Epperson has written some excellent books also. A friend of mine, another former intelligence analyst, and I'm networked with former intelligence analysts all over the country, by the way, men that I served with and people like J.R. Nyquist that I didn't serve with. But Ralph Epperson, and there's a link on my website on the linked page. His book, he's written a number of books. He's a historian, by the way. The Unseen Hand, published in the mid-1980s. Great book. We'll talk about it when we come back from the break.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We're continuing our Energy Cleaner promotion, which began August of 2016. In this promotion, you get to buy an Energy Cleaner, $70 off retail, and a mattress pad, 10% off retail. $200 of the purchase price of the Energy Cleaner goes to Republic Broadcasting. This is a great way to help get energy cleaners out to people who need them and have some financial issues to deal with. And, of course, a great way to support Republic Broadcasting. Here's what you do. Send in a postcard. My address is John Moore, P.O. Box 201, Davidsville, Missouri. We pick a postcard every 2 weeks. If your postcard is drawn, you get the chance to buy the Energy Cleaner, $70 off retail, and 10% off the mattress pads. Put your name and your address, your telephone number, and your email address on the postcard, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you. Back, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the 18th of January. My website is thelibertyman.com. That's thelibertyman.com. If you haven't been to my links page, there's some interesting things on the links page there. I believe they all work. Some of them have been up several years. Maybe a couple that need to be taken down. And, of course, free downloads. You need to check out the free downloads also. If you're interested in pain mitigation, you probably need to get yourself an energy cleaner. Arthritis pain, it will help. Depending on how bad the arthritis is, it will help some, maybe completely. Joint pain, back pain, you will get relief. Not getting a great night's sleep, well, it's time to get a good night's sleep without taking pharmaceutical products. If your circadian rhythm is off, well, you're never going to be healthy. You can't have optimal health and have your circadian rhythm screwed up. You can't. The energy cleaner will help you get a great night's sleep. Only $285 shipping included. As of 18 days ago, we're offering a 90-day money-back guarantee. Most people these days are going ahead from the beginning and getting a mattress pad, a nice, comfortable, fitted mattress pad to go with the energy cleaner. Use it with the energy cleaner. That's how it works. The signal has to get to your body somehow. That's how it gets to your body, with the mattress pad. Everything's right there at my website at thelibertyman.com. I do take PayPal, the most secure way to make any payment online. PayPal now takes payments, by the way, if you live in the USA. MasterCard, Visa, Diners Club, American Express. You send me a check. We take checks also. My address is right there at my website. I have a toll-free hour line 24 hours a day. Here it is. 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Before we get to our next call, I want to talk a little bit about The Unseen Hand. Published January 1st, 1985. My friend, the former intelligence analyst, he recommended this book to me. It was about 1987, about 31 years ago. He says, John, you need to read this book. So I'd be sitting there in my reading chair at home after work, doing investigative work, and my darling wife would be fixing dinner, and she'd check in on me, and she could see the smoke come out of my ears. And she'd say, honey, it's time to put that down for the evening. It's time for dinner. And I would put it down. The next evening, it would start all over again. And the evening after that, it took about 8 or 10 evenings to get through the book. The closer I got to my war, the Vietnam War, the more smoke was coming out of my ears. And then when I finished reading that book is when I became politically active initially in Second Amendment matters. Up until I read the book, I always thought that the massive screw-ups in my war, the Vietnam War, were inadvertent screw-ups on the part of well-meaning people that had our best interest at heart. Turned out not to be the case at all. Amazon.com has The Unseen Hand, new copies delivered to your door if you're a Prime membership member like I am, $7.28. One of the things I like about the book and appreciate is the footnotes, giving you references to original source material. That's the kind of thing I look for in a well-written book. It's footnotes referencing me to original source materials. That's very important. Our caller on hold here is the regular caller. We got Glenn in Philadelphia. Good morning, Glenn.
Good morning, John. Good morning. Hi. Can you hear me well enough, or do I need to improve the sound?
You sound like you're in the next room, but we can hear you.
Okay. All right. The phone receiver itself, that's a little
That's
clearer.
better. That's better.
Yeah.
Whatever you're doing,
Yeah.
keep doing it.
All right. Very good. Actually, I wanted to mention something about the word predict. There's two syllables, pre and dict. And dict is the same as syllable as you see in dictionary, dictate or dictator, and it really just refers to speaking. So to predict is merely just to speak something in advance. We tend to think of it as having to do with uncertainty. Like someone predicts the weather, there's a great deal of uncertainty involved.
It's the common usage. That is the common usage. You're right.
Yeah. But theoretically, if I predict that the sun is going to rise tomorrow, I'm still predicting, even though I have pretty good certainty that it's going to happen. or
Right.
where we see prophecies in the Bible when God says hundreds of years in advance that thus and such will happen, and it does. He had complete certainty that was going to happen. But anyway, yeah. I also talked about the potentialities for nuclear war and prepping and surviving. And then sometimes these days I find myself inclined to think that the only thing worse than being killed in a nuclear explosion is surviving one. Because depending on where you are, how far out in a radius of how far away you are from the epicenter of the destruction, your lot is still going to be very tricky. And, even though I have access to things like generators or, some stored food or something like that, or firearms, it's still a grim scenario. And what really, and what I think of in all this is the fragility, the house of cards that is our modern infrastructure. And you talk about EMP weapons and, the power grid being disrupted. I mean, an imbalance in one region of the country could potentially take down the whole country, just the way
Right.
the connectivity works and all that. And even with generators, I mean, by the time you go through, your second or third backup set of contact brushes, the engine itself these engines are only rated for a few hundred hours, and it's just like, wow. And then there's the prospect of, if you're not away from the crowds, we have this zombie theme, which is the zombie's a metaphor for the common Joe, under horrible circumstances.
Right.
And, I live in the suburbs. I haven't made any plans to move any place more rural. But, the question is, how many of my neighbors am I willing to shoot to keep them away from my cans of beans, So, all those issues. So, and you speak often about, having your spiritual house in order. Frankly, that's kind of like where how I view things. It's like, I don't aspire to being here. I don't expect to be here much more than another 15 years at the outside anyway. And so it's like, okay, my retirement's going to end up being in heaven with Jesus anyway. And it's like, well, I certainly hope I always say that I want to signal for a fair catch and catch the darn thing if something's incoming.
Right. Right.
But I guess you're probably familiar with that sort of thinking a little bit. So I'm aware that that's not your mindset.
Right.
But
it's not. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well,
but, I guess.
Appreciate your input,
I was just
Glenn.
curious.
Okay.
Yeah. So those of us in the suburbs who like to remain in the suburbs, we're either going to get, if something like that were to happen, we'd either be hit or we'd be in a relatively short-term scenario, even with preps. You really have to be, as you say, out. You have to be able to have access to a rural area and have sufficient supplies, and as you say, have a team. You're going to have a small community.
That's right.
To survive. But I guess that's all I was thinking about. And one last thing. The fragility of the Internet. We've built this amazingly complex thing, the Internet. It is dependent on the electric system, which is fragile. And it seems that this Internet has become a more and more of a snarled web of problems and slowdowns and hacks. I mean, just the whole thing that seems to be becoming a very tattered web. It's metastasized into this huge mess that started out orderly and amazing, but is now becoming, quite vulnerable and quite hacked and quite a mess. So I see that the Internet, having all its slowdowns and problems and hacks, and just the amount of problems associated with it are quite something else nowadays. Anyway, okay, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Glenn. We appreciate the call. The call number is 800-313-9443. Ralph Epperson, he also analyzes the Vietnam War, my war, very well. Let's see if I can get here too. Well, when you get to Ralph's website, you'll find everything else that he's done. His analysis of the war is the best that I'm aware of. I'm working my way through the Ken Burns Vietnam War DVD series. And let's see, here's Ralph's website here. There's some interesting things here. Ralph Epperson, Publius Press, and he's different items that he sells. His book, The Unseen Hand, The New World Order, Masonry, Conspiracy Against Christianity, America's Secret Destiny. That's a 4-hour DVD. Only the U.S. Has Nukes. That's quite an eye-opening thing. Here's some free articles that you can read about all kinds of topics. And let's see, there's Vietnam. It's a DVD series. And he makes a lot of connections that seemingly are unrelated. Seemingly unrelated. So it's an education. It's something to throw in the mix, educate yourself, and move on from there. Lots to this. It's a complex world we live in, and a lot of deception going on out there. The communists have infiltrated our mass media. The communists have infiltrated at the highest levels of the United States government. We had 8 years of appointments by a Muslim communist, and many, if not most, of those appointments, any presidential appointment, is high enough that they can appoint people who in turn appoint people. So we have a communist Muslim appointing other communist Muslims who in turn appoint other communist Muslims throughout the federal agencies. That's really scary. I would not want the job. I would take the assignment. I would look at it as a challenge. But it would be a tough assignment to track down all these appointments and get rid of all the Muslims and all the communists that are in the federal government. Somehow, some way. That really needs to happen. It really does need to happen before they can do their dastardly deeds and destroy from within. That's their goal, to destroy us from within. A Trojan horse, so to speak. That's where this is going. And it's going there every day of the week. 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Now, Donald Trump, I'm sure, is aware of these things. He's a brilliant man. He has a great staff of advisors that are aware of these matters. And I know incrementally, behind the scenes, he's dismantling what was done for several presidents, not just Hussein Obama, but both George Bush's and Bill Clinton as well, all of whom were doing harm to our country, each and every one of them. Guys involved in wars we had no business being in. We it's not funny, but we attack Iraq because of non-existent weapons of mass destruction. And some of my veteran friends, I say, "Oh, John, he had chemical weapons." Well, yeah, of course he did. We gave them to him. We're going to go to war because the man has weapons that we gave him? Last thing that Hussein Obama wanted to do, Saddam Hussein wanted to do, was attack the United States or any of its allies. Now we're hearing the story that he posed a threat to Saudi Arabia. No way was Saddam Hussein going to pose a threat to Saudi Arabia, our ally. Obviously not Israel. Clearly, to me, my knowledge. Now, Kuwait was drilling underneath the border into Iraq's oil reserves. That's why the man invaded Kuwait. He tried to get them to stop peaceably. They wouldn't. Tremendous wealth there. So they're drilling sideways underneath the international border into Iraq's oil reserves, and that's why he invaded. In fact, he informed the U.S. ambassador before he did that. He wanted to make sure that we were on board with what he was doing, why he was doing it, and we were okay with it. He wouldn't have done that. He would not have invaded Kuwait if our U.S. ambassador said, no, Saddam, you can't do that. We say you should not do that. No, our ambassador did not give him that message. We got a caller on hold here. We got Dan in Missouri. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, John. I haven't been able to catch all of your shows full length lately, but I hadn't heard you talk any for a while about Randall Terry and his amazing movie. And I just wondered if you...
Yeah, well, it's still for sale on my website if people want to learn all about Muslims and Islam. It's there right there on my website. My homepage. I appreciate that. Because the Muslims are being used also by the communists to destroy the West. The communist agents infiltrated the Muslim schools back in the 1970s to cause them to teach and preach hate against Western society, Western culture, and Christianity. And so it's been going on now for more than 40 years.
I'll tell you, if I had if I had a way to do it, every preacher worth his salt in the United States would at least show the first disc of that set to their congregation, all the adults. If that doesn't open their eyes, then nothing will.
I agree.
It's an amazing
well done.
set of information.
It's here on the left side of my homepage, right below the Canaway hemp oil tile there, and just above the little spinning globe on the left side of my homepage.
Yeah, people just have no idea what we're up against, and that makes it just absolutely crystal clear. All right, John, thank you, buddy.
Appreciate the call. Thank you. The call number is 800-313-9443. Yeah, this whole Russia collusion thing, that's all cooked up to make things appear a certain way that really don't even exist. Here's our break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the 18th of January. In my capacity as an investigator, I've been the last 45 years into hundreds of homes around the Midwest, mostly in Missouri, some in Illinois. And it's a rare occasion that I see any books. I would say, I don't know what the percentage is, but almost none, basically. That I see books in a home, shelves full of books. It's refreshing when I do. And I visit, I have friends and family I visit too, and most of them don't have books of any consequence. My kid brother, he has a small collection of books, and in fact, he sells books. That's one of his businesses, is selling books on Amazon. And he has a nice little collection of books that he uses. I don't know, maybe 200 or 300 volumes. Between my wife and I don't know how many hundreds of books we have, but it's substantial. And the modern age that we're transitioning into, you can own, like when I go to church, I take my Kindle, and I got a Bible on the Kindle, and I said to my pastor, I said, I could have 30 Bibles on this thing if I wanted to. So it's possible to have literally thousands of books in less space than one book would take up. It is phenomenal. For youngsters growing up in this world, that's the way it is. But for us who grew up in the analog world, so to speak, it is phenomenal to have this kind of access to so much information in such a small space. I recall thinking about what would I do if I had to live on a yacht. Where would I put my books? Most yachts have very limited storage space. Well, now that's no longer an issue. I may have a few important reference books, ink on paper, but otherwise they'd all be electronic on a Kindle or some other storage device, flash drive, for example, like Tim Spencer's flash drive that he offers for sale at his website. More than, I think it's up to 1,500 books and publications on a flash drive. Amazing technology. Just about out of time here. Tomorrow we're going to have Tom Berryhill, first hour, talking about emergency survival communications, as we do every Friday, the first hour. Second hour, Dr. Phil Myers, my personal physician, chiropractic physician, and we'll have the health tip of the week from Dr. Myers and get into the things that he's looking into this week. Always fascinating. And as always, we'll take your questions, calls, and comments here at Republic Broadcasting. That's what we'll be doing. If you feel moved in your heart to make a donation, go to Republic Broadcasting's website, and you'll figure out real quick how to make a donation to help keep us on the air. That would help a lot also. It's always fun visiting with you folks every morning. I look forward to it. And as I was telling somebody at the Crawford County Courthouse yesterday, one of the deputies, I've investigated enough murders to last me 2 lifetimes. I'll do it again if I need to, but I'd much rather be talking to you folks in the morning here at Republic Broadcasting than investigating another homicide. It's just, a murder case takes over your life. Let's put it that way. That's how it always was for me. Every murder case I ever got assigned to, it takes over my life for about a year, sometimes longer. But get the book. Get the books. Check out J.R. Nyquist's website. Check out Ralph Epperson's book, Anatoly Golitsyn's book, New Lies for Old. Get them, read them, understand them, and incorporate that knowledge into your being. It will help you a lot, I believe, understand this world we live in. In the meantime, get your medical supplies, your energy cleaner, your essential oils now while you can, your firearms, ammunition. Never, ever give up your guns. Please do have a fun, safe, productive day, and God bless America.